I would have done mine.
Okay, November 29th, 2023, 7:05 PM. Call the planning board meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on our agenda is the Evergreen Estates subdivision. Is there anybody present for that tonight? We do have an open public hearing, so if someone would like to speak, please come up to the podium with your name. Anybody on Zoom, Chris? No. Okay. Next, we have the major subdivision, Thomas Reed Hidden Valley Road. Continuation of the public hearing. Is there anybody that has any comments for the public hearing? Please come up to the podium. So the public hearing at this point will remain open. So later on in the meeting, if somebody wishes to speak, just raise your hands. So we're all set. Your presentation.
Hi, Matt Huntington with Studio A here on behalf of Tom Reed, the applicant, and Matt Webster with Van Duzen Steves is also accompanying me. So I believe where we left this off, we were discussing the town taking the roadway, and then we were trying to get through parts 2 and 3 of seeker. Since then, we have gone to a town board meeting 2 weeks ago, or was it last week?
Couple weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, sorry. To present them with the idea of taking the roadway and the stormwater management practices. The meeting, I believe, went somewhat favorably in that direction, although they haven't committed yet. One of the discussions at the meeting was in the current subdivision regulations, it states that a subdivision roadway width needs to be a minimum of 28 feet, which in our opinion is a little excessive. We discussed that at the town board. The highway superintendent, Ron Dool, verbally said he would be willing to go down to a 12-foot lane each as a minimum. So we're proposing that. That's something that the planning board has the power to basically waive the 28-foot requirement and allow the 24-foot requirement.
Can I interrupt you, please?
Yeah, certainly.
The town or the planning board has the regulation of 28 feet. Unless it's a hardship, we don't have, in my opinion, the right to change it. Did you get a list of what the hardships are?
Well, that was my question. I don't know if it's worded as clearly under that section because 8 whatever it is, 10 talks about a variance, but then 8.40 also in the subdivision regulations talks about unrequired or inappropriate improvements and conditions to waivers for modifications from the improvements. So I guess our take, and I think we would have to defer to the town's attorney on that, if that's something that we can qualify under. It basically just says the planning board may waive requirements for subdivision improvements as in its judgment. Special circumstances of particular plat or plats are not requisite in the interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. I mean, I would pose that a 28-foot wide roadway is not really necessary for 8 to 9 houses. Typically an interstate highway is a 12-foot lane. So a rural subdivision with 14-foot lanes seems a bit excessive, creates more disturbance, creates more stormwater management, kind of maximizes areas that, typically most subdivision roadways we vary, if they're privately or town owned, vary between 11 and 12-foot lanes.
Unfortunately, our subdivision regulations say 28 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the town board said you can go to 24, you can't unless they change the law.
Okay.
Or there's a hardship.
So
You did
we
come
would
forward
not.
originally with a 28-foot, correct? That was your original plan.
Well, it was 24, and then we went to 28, and then back
Yeah,
to
but
24.
you were willing to
now,
go to
yeah.
28 because that's a regulation.
Yeah, certainly.
And if you had a hardship situation, I mean, what I heard at the town board meeting, that wasn't really a hardship in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, explain it to the board that's here tonight. What you actually said at the town board meeting, what the hardship was to your, well, the Tom Reed and, you know.
Certainly. So I guess, are we on a general consensus that we will not fall under 8.4 and 8.5 of the subdivision regulations? Because 8.10 is the hardship, but it's not really clear if that applies to the rest of Article 8.
Okay, that's something I'll have to ask Mary.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I know the town's not going to approve 24 since they know the regulation's 28.
Okay.
I went to the meeting last Monday,
Yeah.
last Monday. And it was just, they asked me, because I was in the audience, discussed it, and I said, this is the regulation. And, you know, since we're the board that actually approves the road, they don't approve the road. They
Yeah.
approve whether they're gonna take care of it.
Right.
But we approve it, and we have to follow these regulations, because there's other companies are out there, you know, subdivisions, they have 10 lots, they're following the 28 feet. It can, you know, if you say something to one,
Yeah, certainly.
and if it's not a hardship, I'm under the understanding that somebody could challenge it, even if we pass it, because we're going against the regulation, because there's no hardship.
Yeah, understood.
I mean,
It sounds like that may have to be open. Perhaps we can talk in between meetings with the town attorney and just see if our interpretation on the code.
okay, I
can
mean,
fall.
yeah, I don't know exactly what points you're bringing out. You probably have to talk to her about that.
Well, I'm just bringing up that the first article is under variances, then it says hardship. And then as you continue on through chapter 8, which is related to variances, there's also sections related to that are unrelated to this project, cluster, PRDs, PUDs. But then also there's the unrequired and inappropriate improvements to the subdivision. It's not really clearly defined what that means. So our proposal would be that under that, there's no hardship requirement that I saw in the code. And it appears that the planning board has the ability to waive requirements for subdivision improvements in its judgment of special circumstances. We would try to pose that this is a special circumstance because excessive road width for the amount of lots.
Okay, well, like I said, as far as I know, understanding that this is what we're going by, if you can meet with the attorney and.
Yeah, certainly. It doesn't sound like we're getting anywhere further on that right now. So
I mean,
in the
if
interest
you
of
can
time,
prove
I
that-
think.
that we could do that, or through, you know, the attorney says, yes, we can do that.
Yeah,
But as we read the regulations the last few days, I believe that, you know, if I do it for you, then we have to do it for everybody. And there's already people with the 28 feet, there's no real hardship. I mean,
yeah.
you did present a 28 foot to begin with.
Why do you want to go to 24?
Yeah, I mean, it's another 4
So it's
feet
not
worth
fair.
of roadway.
As
another
much
4
as I
feet worth of
understand,
roadway
you want to
width,
save
you know.
costs, but it's not
Yeah.
really a hardship. And I understand the town wants to have, you know, developments and everything, but that's why we have this book and we have to follow regulations.
Yeah,
you know.
certainly. No, I was just posing that we fall under a different section of that, but sounds like I
I
guess
don't
we
want
can
to
leave
seem like
that
a
open.
bad guy. I just
No,
want to make
no.
sure we do things right. you know.
It sounds like we can leave that open for more discussion.
Right. I mean, if you can,
Well,
our lawyer,
yeah.
a way that we can bypass that, fine.
Certainly. Really continuing on from there, what has happened since then is we've submitted our stormwater pollution prevention plan, grading plans, which you all have as of tonight, to the town engineer last week, for their review to continue on their sign off of the subdivision. So that said, is it going to be possible to continue through Seekers Part 2 and 3?
We can do seeker part 2 and 3 tonight. The stormwater review. Cedarwood has indicated to me today that they need a little bit more time to review that part of it.
Okay.
But he actually has helped prepare our part 2 and part 3, which they all have a copy of in their packet tonight. So we can review that and hopefully move the seeker process on.
Okay.
Yeah, we do all have that, so.
One thing I wanted to point out on the plans that you had just recently submitted with the redesign back to cul-de-sac and I think this is, it is. I think I know why it is this way, but on the septic layout plan at the cul-de-sac and one of those proposed septic fields and replacement field is under the edge of the cul-de-sac. And I think you probably just had an overlay and you haven't
It's
really looked at
exactly,
that.
It's a copy and paste issue.
Yeah, and I know Ron Duell, Highway Superintendent, has been talking about a 25-foot right-of-way easement, right of way around there. If that has any bearing on those septics, they may need to be moved back as well. That was the only thing that I saw in looking this over myself.
No, you're correct. That was just layer that
I
was
figured
turned
it was
off
like
and
an
on of the
overlay
drawing.
type thing,
Exactly.
yeah.
So that, I mean, there's plenty of room to slide that back
Yeah.
in there.
So everyone has their speaker stuff in their packet, I believe. Then you're gonna have to read through that.
Oh, I thought maybe.
I can do it. No, I don't.
Thanks, Mary.
All right. Does everyone have their sheet in front of them?
Mhm.
All right, so question number 1. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Jonathan put yes. Do we agree with that? Yes. Proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. No or small impact is checked. Just let me know if anyone disagrees. I'm not gonna stop and ask every time. So if you disagree with an answer, just make sure you make it known. The proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater, no or small impact. The proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface, no or small impact. The proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material, no or small impact. The proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases, no or small impact.
Can I pause you
Sure.
for both this and the one previous? What's the general, your cut and fill calculations for what you've got so far?
I mean, we haven't
How much
performed
earthwork
a full cut and fill calculation, but if you look at your center line profile, we generally are staying within the existing grade there, so it's relatively minimal in terms of cut and fill. It certainly will not be 1,000 tons.
And then for the timeline, this 1 year, multiple phases. I mean, I would assume that total construction would span more than 1 year, wouldn't it?
Likely, but the substantial construction is the installation of the roadway, you know, and then after that, your single family homes on lots at that point.
Carry on. Right.
No, that's okay. The proposed action may result in an increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides, no or small impact. The proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area, no or small impact. Section 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. For example, cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, or caves. No is checked. All right, Section 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. Yes is checked. Little a, the proposed action may create a new water body. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. No or small impact. The proposed action may create turbidity in a water body either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. No or small impact. The proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal of water from surface water. No or small impact. The proposed action may include construction of one or more outfalls for discharge of wastewater to surface water. No or small impact. The proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. No or small impact. The proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in or around any water body. No or small impact. The proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. No or small impact. Section 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to induce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. Yes is checked. Subsection A, the proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. No or small impact. Water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate of the local supply or aquifer. No or small impact. The proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. No or small impact. The proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated. No or small impact. The proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer. No or small impact. The proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources. No or small impact. Section 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. No is checked. Section 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. No is checked. Section 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. No is checked. Section 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. No is checked.
Pause for a second.
Yep.
Wondering if number 7 should be yes, but then still check the no or small impact. I mean, the reality of the situation is there is an impact. It's minute in the grand scheme of things, but I don't know if you guys have anything.
Because it's no or small. You just said like.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think number 7 is geared more towards threatened and endangered species, which there were none on the project site notified. Or not notified, but listed. So I believe that's why no is checked, because it's not just any species, it's more threatened and endangered species.
Yeah, I mean, when you break down the question, it's definitely what's geared towards. But
Right, so we're okay with no still. The consensus is no.
Correct.
You want me to redo 8? Because I feel like we talked about 7. Okay. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. No is checked. Number 9,
I'm on the question. Because it talks about distribution and the just say it again. I can
It's not active agricultural land.
Okay. You're good.
right, section 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. No is checked. Number 10, impact on historic or archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. Yes is checked. Subsection A, the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to any buildings, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historical Places or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for a listing on the State Register of Historic Places. No or small impact.
can I ask what the historical place is? Why the check yes, I guess.
Yeah.
Questions too.
Because I believe we had an archaeological survey done because the majority of this area of the state, if you drop a pin, has some sort of historical significance because of the amount of, war, Revolutionary War that was fought here, French and Indian, et cetera. So the chances are they're going to be adjacent to a site that there's potential of finding an artifact are pretty high. So most of these projects we end up having to do an archaeological study on, especially within the Adirondacks.
B, the proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office Archaeological Site Inventory. No or small impact. The proposed action may occur wholly or partially within or substantially contiguous to an archaeological site not included on the New York SHPO inventory. No or small impact. Section 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. No. Section 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. No. Section 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. No. Section 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. No. Section 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Yes. Subsection A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. No or small impact. The proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions, no or small impact. Section 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants, yes. The proposed action is located within 1,500 feet of a school, hospital, licensed daycare center, group home, nursing home, or retirement community, no or small impact. The site of the proposed action is currently undergoing remediation, no or small impact. There is a completed emergency spill remediation or a completed environmental site remediation on or adjoining to the site of the proposed action, no or small impact. The site of the action is subject to an institutional control limiting the use of property. For example, an easement or deed restriction, no or small impact. The proposed action may affect institutional control measures that were put in place to ensure that the site remains protective of the environment and human health, no or small impact. The proposed action has adequate control measures in place to ensure that future generation, treatment and or disposal of hazardous waste will be protective of the environment and human health, no or small impact. The proposed action involves construction or modification of a solid waste management facility, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in the unearthing of solid or hazardous waste, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in an increase in the rate of disposal or processing of solid waste, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in excavation or other disturbance within 2,000 feet of a site used for the disposal of solid or hazardous waste, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in the migration of explosive gases from a landfill site to adjacent off-site structures, no or small impact. The proposed action may result in the release of contaminated, I don't know that word, leachate from the project sites, thank you. No or small impact. Section 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. No.
So it's like a double negative.
Yeah, it's not-
It is not.
It is consistent.
Okay. So no is checked. We all agree with that.
Mhm.
Okay. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. No.
Double negative.
All right, so for part 3, provide the reasons in support of the determination of significance. Which there actually weren't any, but Jonathan still filled this out. He said impact on land, proposed action involves the development of a 10-lot single-family subdivision. Proposed development includes the construction of a single-family residence, an asphalt driveway, on-site wastewater treatment system, an on-site well, in each individual lot, an access road, and a robust stormwater management system. Although the existing land surface will be altered, the project will be completed in accordance with regulatory requirements, including but not necessarily limited to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan to handle any erosion and sediment control, along with the post-construction control implementation. The project will also comply with the New York State Department of Health Realty Subdivision Law. Impact on surface water, only small impacts expected due to the proposed design incorporating stormwater management areas, and all proper permitting will be handled in accordance with jurisdictional agencies prior to construction. Impact on groundwater, minor impact expected due to each residential lot only needing a small amount of water demand supplied from new groundwater supply wells. Wastewater treatment will be provided by on-site subsurface disposal sites in accordance with all codes and regulations. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, no or small impact may occur. The applicant has received their no impact letter from the New York State Historic Preservation Office. Impact on noise, odor, and light, no or small impact may occur. Minor temporary impacts expected, which are typical for construction projects. Impact on human health, no or small impact expected. The proposed action will involve permitting with involved jurisdictional agencies and comply with all design and construction best practices to minimize impact on human health. Being a residential subdivision, no major impacts are expected. Jonathan also sent a resolution to go with this, finding.
Do we have to finish this? Because this is what this and this, because this is what, conference you have to sign that page. It's one that you just finished.
Yep, so this one's on the resolution. So
Oh, okay.
there's a resolution that says this project will not result in any significant adverse impacts on the environment. And therefore, no environmental impact statement needs to be prepared. I don't know if someone else wants to read the resolution. I don't know if you're all sick of hearing my voice, or I can also read it.
Doing such a great job.
Okay. Great. All right, so resolution adopting a negative declaration for the Snow Green Valley subdivision. Whereas the Snow Green Valley subdivision located along Hidden Valley Road in the town of Lake Luzerne has been classified as a type 1 action due to the project scope. Whereas the Lake Luzerne Planning Board requested lead agency status from involved agencies for the above referenced project. The Lake Luzerne Planning Board completed an amended coordinated review that was sent out to the involved agencies on.
October 31.
That is correct. I thought it was November.
No,
Okay.
that's correct.
Involved agencies on October 31st, 2023. Whereas the secret process requires a lead agency to be designated to facilitate the secret review process and to make a determination of significance when provided with sufficient information. Whereas the lead agency is required to review part 1 of the FEAF and must complete part 2 and 3 of the FEAF. The lead agency is required to make a determination of significance for the above referenced project consistent with secret guidelines. Now and therefore be it resolved that based on agreement from all involved agencies and without objection, the Lake Luzerne Planning Board declares itself lead agency. Resolved, having completed part 2 and 3 of the FEAF, Lake Luzerne Planning Board as lead agency hereby determines that the proposed project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment for reasons set forth in part 3 of the FEAF. Resolved that the Lake Luzerne Planning Board is authorized to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file the negative declaration and discharge the Lake Luzerne Planning Board responsibility as lead agency for this action.
Did they receive any response from the agencies?
We got one response from Department of Health that they agreed that we were lead agency.
I can't make the motion. Someone else has to.
I make the motion.
Second.
Roll call vote on that?
Yes, please.
Mike?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Scott? Yes. Barbara?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Carry on, motion carries.
Thank you. So next steps, I guess, would be determining the roadway, and we're waiting on a full subdivision or a stormwater review from Cedarwood.
Right.
With a copy of this resolution, we can at least start the Department of Health Realty subdivision review.
Yeah, I will file it tomorrow morning and I will scan it in and send it to you.
Okay, appreciate
Okay.
it. One hypothetical question on the road is if this did go to an HOA, are we allowed to go with 12-foot roadway if it becomes a private road at that point? Do you need to comply?
From what I understand, no, but I don't know, you have to. I don't know for sure, but that's
I'll
that's
get
what I
back
was.
to you.
Okay, we'll touch base then. All right, thank you.
That would be good.
Question.
Thanks.
Can I- is that okay?
Sure.
Good question.
And this has to do with following state regulations and things like that. We're following the Department of Environmental Conservation and Department of Health guidelines. I think it's important that we consider Department of Transportation guidelines also. And we have design criteria for roads and subdivisions that are passed down by the Department of Transportation. For example, the guideline for throughways is 12 feet lanes. We have roads in our area, Hidden Valley Road, Forest Lake Road, Northwoods Road, Chuckwagon Trail, Pinewoods Road, Gage Hill Road. Not one of them is more than 21 feet wide. And my question is, and by the way, the guideline that the state has for roads with the miles per hour that are guidelines on Hidden Valley Road is a 10-foot wide lane. My question is, why isn't the town following DOT? Why are we at 28 feet wide when DOT doesn't even require that?
The subdivision regulations were adopted in 1998, and I don't know why they were adopted the way they were. I talked to Jonathan Sokup today. We had that similar discussion. And he said that it's very possible that at the time that the regulations were written, the highway superintendent that was in place at the time, that was his recommendation to the board to make them that wide. He made, for whatever reasons, that's probably what happened. But because it is in our regulation at 28, that the board has to go with that unless that hardship is proven regardless of, because we spent some time, Chris and I spent some time looking at other towns and those same state DOT regulations that you're talking about. We know that it does not match our regulations, but to change our regulations, they would have to go through the process of a local law, public hearing, and all of that, which may be doable at some point if this board decides that 28 feet is more than it needs to be. But for right now, that's the standard that they have to go by.
Well, John, you mentioned earlier that everybody is going to have to follow a standard that doesn't seem, in my opinion, and I believe the Department of Transportation's opinion,
I
doesn't
understand
seem
what you're saying.
reasonable.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking you to do is whatever has to be done to make things more reasonable in the town. This,
I went to the town board. I said to them Monday night, if to get off to 28 feet, you guys have to change the law. I told them that.
oh, okay, good. Thank you.
That doesn't sound like they want to do it, but just to warn you, because I said, you guys have to do that. We have to follow the regulations.
No, I don't disagree. We have to follow regulations. We're following regulations for everybody else, every other department. Why aren't we following DOT guidelines? Why aren't we
Because
doing
the
that?
town must have their own, and doesn't that take precedence, the towns?
That's a question to ask town board. This board has nothing to do with
Right.
changing. this.
Okay, and you're an attorney for the town also, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how do I get this question addressed? Because we're not gonna be, this town needs growth. And this is a huge detriment to growth. Do you realize how much more expensive it is to do this? And you're throwing all these dollars onto developers and you're not attracting affordable housing. It just seems to me that we should be
I wish we
looking for
could answer
DOT
that,
for
yeah.
we should be looking for DOT for guidance when we're putting these things out there. That's just my opinion.
And that's why I went to the town board, because they're the ones that have to do it. I mean, that's why I went to talk to them Monday night, because I saw the 24, if they would have passed the law, fine, but according to what I understand from Karen and our lawyer, we have to follow the guidelines that, and I tried to find out why they did it. Why did they make it 28 feet, 1998? I don't know why, what the reason was to do that. But unless they change it, or there's a hardship,
Well, let me ask you this question. It's gonna take us a while to get this built. Do you think it's reasonable to ask the town to try and change that guideline before we go into construction? Do you think it's possible to do it?
I actually can't answer. I mean, I would. if I was you,
Possible to
yeah.
do it within 2 months. It's
I'm
just,
sorry, in 2 months?
it's possible, but also up to the town board, and they were not receptive to it on Monday night. That was my read on it. But I don't know if you came and talked to them or talked to them not in a public setting, if that would change.
How do I do that?
I'm assuming their email addresses are public.
At least their phone numbers are available in the county booklet that we have. I don't give out personal emails unless it's listed there.
Well, I think it's something that we have to do. I mean, it's not just for us, but I think that it'd be reasonable for all development. I mean, there's many roads in town that are
Well, there's another
28 feet
developer.
wide.
Yeah.
Maybe 9 is, but I don't think other
There's
than
another
that.
guy that's developing. He's got the 28-foot road. He's just waiting for the DO.
DOH and DOH.
Well, see, if it was
And it's a 10 lot.
like
just like
24
yours.
feet of pavement and a couple of feet of whatever you call the sides.
Right, gravel
shoulder. That makes sense. But 28 feet of pavement just, and the other thing, when you start doing this, you're not actually treating the environment very well. And the more pavement you put down, the more you're not helping the environment. So
Yeah,
for a lot of
it's-
reasons,
it's-
I think-
Unfortunately, it's going to have to be the town board. I mean,
Yes.
Yep.
and I did try.
well, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Mr. Reed,
No.
Mr. Reed, I just wanted to say something. I'm going to be on the town board, starting in January. A lot of the points that you're making, I thought myself, it does seem arbitrary on the surface why the road width would be so much, especially for the type of subdivision that you're talking about, with all the roads around the area that are smaller. With that said, I haven't done enough research, if I'm being honest, to figure out why they came up with that number for 28 feet. But I'll look into it more to see if we can figure out what that number was,
Thanks, Zane. I
and why they
appreciate it.
came up with that.
I know that part of the problem in town with the roads is that a lot of the towns are old. And when they were put in, they were not made wide enough. And Ronnie does have plowing issues. And so I'm thinking, well, Ronnie wasn't in place when this subdivision regulation was made. It was obviously someone else, but I'm assuming that the other superintendents of highway had problems with plowing. You know, like in the Heights, the roads are very narrow. Even Hidden Valley Road is narrower than this proposed road. And I think that what they were trying to do in that subdivision regulation was to get away from roads that the towns took on as roads, you know, that they owned and maintained, to get away from these narrow roads. And again, according to what I was told today in having a conversation with Jonathan Sokup, he thinks that it was probably back in 1990s when they redid this subdivision regulation. It was probably at the recommendation of the present highway superintendent at that time for the width. That's the best I have come up with yet.
That doesn't say that we shouldn't be looking at DOT guidelines.
It does not say that. No.
I understand what you're saying, and I'll talk to Ron Dool about it and get his opinion on it and just see,
Well,
moving
see,
forward.
The push comes, they'd like to have 40. I mean,
Yeah, no, I understand.
So, I mean, what we need to do is, I don't think that they're having any problem plowing our Forest Lake Road. I don't think that there's any problem with Chuckwagon Trail and Northwoods Road. I don't think they're having problems plowing up there. And these are 20-foot wide roads. So the point about plowing is, it's a fair point, but do we need 28-foot wide road?
No, because your other option would be a 24-foot road, correct? And that seems to me,
I actually think that they should be 10 feet, but
yeah.
you know, No, well, according to DOT, they
yeah.
should be 10 feet.
Yeah,
So, but 12 feet seems like reasonable. And, with a couple of feet on the side, and even if you had 10-foot wide road, you want 4 feet wide, surface at the side. What do you call it? At the sideline? Shoulder, thank you. I mean, I just think we need to be reasonable about these things.
Well, I just wanted you to be aware of that tonight, what I discussed with the town board, so you're not getting any surprises, like you think it's gonna be 24, but the town board, we have to go by this, and they didn't sound like at that point, we're gonna do anything, but if you go to them and state your case and.
Well,
Mary.
if you want to get the group with your compadres together, I'd love to talk to them about it. I think it's worthwhile to just look at the DOT, guidelines.
I don't disagree. I mean, there's a reason the DOT came up with that number.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you for
Yeah,
listening to
before
me.
I give you an answer on the waiver or the hardship, it's not making sense to me why there are two different standards in there. So I need to understand why there's two different standards and what they apply to before I can give you an answer. So that's why I don't want to do that tonight, because I don't think it's good for any of the parties involved to not do it correctly. So we'll figure out why those are both in there. We'll figure out what the road widths mean in the next month, and maybe we don't have to do any of this.
Okay, well, thank you,
So-
Mary. I appreciate it.
Yep.
And thank you, John.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I need him to sign that. I'll get him to do it after. Just say it here.
So next we have the,
Short form one.
no, it's not closed.
I'll do
I mean, unless you guys are serious.
it. All right.
Good night, you're welcome. Next, we have the continued review of the 3-lot subdivision, Virginia Mason, like.
Good evening, all. Justin Grassi here, attorney for the applicant, attorney with Joe and Steve's Grassi. As you all recall, I'm sure last month, we went over this 3-lot subdivision. What it is a 9.7 acre parcel currently existing. We are intending to subdivide it into 2 buildable lots, one at 3.72 acres, the other at 5.36 acres, and then a third non-buildable, what we're calling the beach lot, intended to be shared by those buildable lots. That's going to be 7 acres. I think the real question that was raised at the last meeting was the non-buildable beach lot was not going to be serviced by Route 9N, was not going to have any frontage on the road. And the question was, can we create a landlocked parcel? I believe the answer to that was, at least it was suggested or requested, that access be provided. So that was easy, as I think we discussed briefly at the last meeting as well. There does exist already a gravel road going down right along the roadway between lots 1 and 2, which goes right to lot 3. So what we proposed by at least letter amendment to our application as a condition of approval with that, we would have an easement satisfactory to town council that would provide ingress and egress to that lot. So solving that problem, not likely that we would use a lot of access to there, given the only users of lot 3 are likely to be lot 1 and 2, and they would walk from residences when if constructed, but that would eliminate any concerns, at least for purposes of access. So we're not, in addition to our letter, we also provided a draft easement. We're in no way stuck on that language. It was just for purposes of, hey, in case you had any questions or comments on that.
Yes, they're all conforming lots. They are all conforming
We're
lots.
questioning whether it's one.
What's those landlocked?
And
Aaron, do you have another one of those maps?
Pardon?
Do you have another one of the maps?
Here,
I spoke to you about.
We got one, Karen.
Are you asking? You're up.
Yeah. About the landlocked.
Make sure it gets that.
Would it be okay still or no? I mean, we kind of were.
Yeah, so
We had a lot of.
Yeah. I didn't find anything in the law that said you couldn't create a landlocked parcel. So I think that was the question, the major question last time was what was it?
Right.
Not, was it lawful to create this landlocked parcel? There's nothing that says that I could find that said you can't create this parcel. My understanding is that the county is requesting an easement.
that's correct.
So it's up to this board whether or not you're comfortable just granting the subdivision as it is, or you can grant the subdivision with a condition. My suggestion would be the condition is that the county accepts the easement. Because there's no requirement from the town or from any state laws that this parcel not be landlocked. I mean, it frankly becomes an issue for the developer, because at some point they won't be able to do anything with that parcel.
Right. I mean, I think I'm entirely in agreement with that. And just to expand, in my experience, I have subdivided and created landlocked parcels. Usually they're for green space, for hunting, for trails. And usually there is the concern of, well, how do you maintain that? That is potentially usually the largest concern we see is, well, who's going to mow it? Who's going to remove it? And if you can't get any access to it, how are you going to do that? Here, the suggestion was lots 1 and 2 would be able to do that. If it makes everyone happier to get the easement, we're perfectly comfortable with that. Only question I have with regard to county is who would approve it? I just don't want it to sit out there where we say, hey, can you take a look at this easement? And they're like, well, we don't really approve easements here in the county. And I don't, so as long as that can be resolved, we're perfectly fine with that being a condition.
If there's an easement, if we say we accept it with the easement, then the county most likely when they look at it, since the easement is there, they would.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My only suggestion was that it's not necessarily the concern of this board whether or not it's landlocked. But I'm not suggesting that you aren't concerned about that. I'm just saying if that's not something you want to consider, you don't have to. You don't lawfully have to, but you certainly can.
And you said that you're willing to put an easement in there or?
Absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, the only thing I literally, as I was driving here, I drafted an easement, and I was thinking to myself, it might make sense to put another sentence in there that says, as long as all the owners are in agreement, we can move the location. If for some reason it becomes an encumbrance on an ability to do something on those lots. Again, I don't think that impacts anybody, but that's the only sentence I would probably add just to give us some flexibility if we needed to move that location, which is as long as it doesn't frustrate the ingress and egress, which is, I think, customary for most easements these days anyway.
I would not lock him into any sort of language at this point. I think your only condition should be that there is some sort of access to the landlocked parcel. Easement language can even change with every deed that you have, so.
So we're not necessarily asking for an easement, but we're asking for to put in the stipulation that they have access to the property. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, basically that it isn't landlocked. Right away, an easement, some way to get to this piece of land.
Can they ever build a house on that property?
I don't think so, right?
Right. The water.
They never build a house on it, she's asking.
I don't, I don't like to ever say the never, because you never know if those shoreline restrictions will ease and one day it'll be much more dense down there. My understanding is right now, no. And to the extent we were to try to build, APA also requires approval, as is my understanding.
It is the required size of a lot. But again, there are setbacks that they would have to meet, et cetera. So whether it's ever buildable or not, there's always variances, there's always whatever. It's a required, it meets the required size and width of a lot. So potentially it could be built upon as long as all other factors fall into place correctly. And again, we have this shoreline setback, which is an issue. Because you've got to keep your septic 100 feet away, and everything, so it's, but they weren't looking to make it a buildable lot at this point. They were trying to keep it as a beach lot, not as a buildable lot. That's right. Without having a principal structure on there, you can't have any accessory structure.
Like if they want to put kayaks, anything like that, there could be no.
Kayaks could go there, but
Like storage.
not
storage
any,
building.
right, any kind of a structure. The way it's written right now.
They're okay with that, knowing that there can be no structure, nothing at all.
Yes. Yeah, there is no intent at this point to have any structures down on that parcel. And I spoke with them about that. They said, no, we don't want to seek that in any way. And I told them, to the extent you ever want to change that, you'd be back either before this board, likely moving some lines and to comply with some setbacks. But there's no intent to do that.
We don't need to have like a new map drawn that shows the actual,
No.
so, okay.
Is this like under secret review at all?
Yes, you have to go through.
You're all
this.
gonna listen to me again.
But I believe this is a short form.
It
so
is.
It is.
Perhaps a little expedited.
I just don't want to be in a situation where they want to put up like a small gazebo to enjoy the beach or something like that. Then they can't put anything on that property. And I don't want that to become an issue in the future. That's
Sure.
where my thinking is going.
I'm on board with what you're thinking. If I own the parcel, I would probably want, some ability to put up a small structure, a gazebo, some storage for a beach. Right now, I think the intent is that each lot, so lot one, for instance, you have that, garage and then the little outbuilding. That is where they would store the things for their beach. And I think part of their thought was, since this area is going to be shared, they don't want any fights over cleaning things up and who's going to use what and putting it back. Everything's clear. You bring it from your own parcel, you bring it back. I think it's intended to kind of be clean like that. And to the extent anyone wants to make it messy in the future, they'll come back to this board for further approvals.
We have to do the secret review first. I'll allow you to do it.
I allowed. Okay, so this one is not pre-filled out for us. So if you don't think it's no or small impact, please speak up.
You've got to go through this part first. Sorry.
That's okay.
You want me to read it? I'll read it.
Sure. I think you'll come back.
Okay. So the part one is all of the project information. And the sponsor is Justin Grassi Esquire, his address. We'll go down to question one. Does the proposed action only involve the legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? No. And if you disagree with any of these answers, speak up as we go down through them. Does the proposed action require a permit, approval, or funding from any other government agency? No. 3, total acreage of site of the proposed action, 9.78 acres. B, total acreage to be physically disturbed, 0. Total acreage, project site, and any contiguous properties owned or controlled by the applicant or project sponsor, 0. 4, check all land uses that occur on, are adjoining, or near the proposed action. They have marked forest, aquatic, and residential. The other choices that are not marked are urban, parkland, rural, agricultural, industrial, and commercial. You feel any other ones should be marked?
Park, are they by the state park? Is that be considered?
They are near the state park. Are adjoining. Should we mark that one because it's next to that state park?
We're fine with that.
Okay. We're gonna mark parkland. Hold on. Is the proposed, number 5, is the proposed action A permitted use under the zoning regulations? Yes. B, consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan? Yes. 6, is the proposed action consistent with the predominant character of the existing built or natural landscape? Yes. Is the site of the proposed action located in or does it adjoin a state-listed critical environmental area? No. 8A, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? No. B, are public transportation services available at or near the site of the proposed action? No. C, are any pedestrian accommodations or bicycle routes available on or near the site of the proposed action? No. 9, does the proposed action meet or exceed the state energy code requirements? Yes. 10, will the proposed action connect to an existing public-private water supply? Yes is marked. 11, will the proposed action connect to existing wastewater utilities? They've marked yes. Okay. 12, does the project site contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historic Places or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places? No. B, is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, Archaeological Site Inventory? No. 13A, does any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by a federal, state, or local agency? Yes is marked. B, would the proposed action physically alter or encroach into any existing wetland or water body? No. Identify the typical habitat types that occur on or are likely to be found on the project site. Check all that apply. They have checked shoreline, forest, and have not checked wetland, urban, agricultural, grasslands, suburban, or early mid-successional. Is everyone all right with that?
As far as we know, there's no wetlands there.
Correct.
Okay.
We've done early mid-successional.
I don't know.
Succession is when an area, a wet area starts to fill in and become more land-ish, so to speak, so that's succession. Excuse me?
Any disturbed area, then
Starts to fill in.
Number 15, does the site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed by the state or federal government as threatened or endangered? Yes. And they've written in least bittern, LEASTBITTERN. 16, is the project site located in the 100-year flood plan? No. Will the proposed action create stormwater discharge either from point or non-point sources? No. 18, does the proposed action include construction or other activities that would result in the impoundment of water or other liquids e.g. retention pond, waste lagoon, dam? No. 19, has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility? No. 20, has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been the subject of remediation, ongoing or completed for hazardous waste? No. And then they have, Mr. Grassi has certified the completement of that.
Could you just ask a question, because I'm not familiar with the term least bittern, what is?
Yeah, so some of these, as this board is probably aware, some of these are auto-filled. I use the EAF mapper. And so this is DEC uses their maps to determine the most relevant information, actually very much like the applicant previously discussed on as far as archaeological sites. In this case, there is a bird called the least bittern, which is or can be located in this area. Generally speaking, that bird has a habitat of marshy areas, cattails, things like that. So there does not appear to be any areas on this property which would have that habitat, especially areas that would be disturbed in any way. So to the extent it's there's any marshy areas, that's obviously would be along the lake, and those areas are going to be undisturbed with that 100-foot buffer. So we think there's still no or small impact as a result of potentially a threatened bird.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
All right, part 2. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No or small impact? If it's not no or small impact, please speak up. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No or small impact? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact? Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? No or small impact? Will the proposed action impact existing public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No or small impact? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, like wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No or small impact? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact? So I'm checking the box that says, based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. And someone should make a motion to that extent.
Make a motion.
Second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
We also have Next up is the public hearing, whether we require one. Or not require one. This is a minor subdivision, correct? So we don't have to, but it's up to the board whether we want to or not. Anybody has a motion to that or any questions about it?
I make a motion not to require one.
I would second that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Finally, we have whether to pass the subdivision with any conditions or deny it or table it. I know we talked about conditions if we wanted one. Trying to think of the word to use as far as easement or right of way or.
Just make it easy. Make a condition with an easement to the landlocked parcel.
There we go. I make a motion that we pass the subdivision with an easement. So it doesn't become landlocked.
I'll second that.
Yes, please.
For the condition, I'm going to write an easement required for the beach lot.
Yes. Thanks, Karen. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
There was a cottage there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And
Well, for the house, I mean, you know, you had these, we had a terrace, so we had a big rock and stuff like that, but it I remember we had some more plan like that.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
once now that Howard's back, I make a motion that we pass the subdivision with the condition of an easement for lot number 2.
I second that.
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
You're all set?
Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Have a great evening.
I'll get this recorded tomorrow and email you the results of it, okay?
Sounds
All
good.
right, and then you just have to provide me with the Mylar and the, at least, I would like one final paper copy for mine that I can have John sign. And I think the county requires a Mylar and a paper copy, so you get those to me, I'll get them signed by John and then you can just pick them back up. There is a $50 fee for that part of it as well.
Total of 3 copies, 2 paper, 1 Mylar County.
Yeah, and a
fee of
$50, yeah.
Fee to county.
Town of Lake Luzerne.
Excellent. Thank you.
You can see. If there's anything that works. Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Do we have any minutes tonight? Any old or new business? Karen,
I'm sorry.
any old or new business?
I don't have anything new that I can think of at this point.
Mary?
Bye.
No, I don't think so. I these minutes.
No, we have. Those are. Anybody else have any,
No.
hopefully we have another meeting next month so Dane can come to our last meeting, his last meeting.
Oh, I do want to mention something. I was asked to join in on a call with the county about recreation ideas, how the county can better spend money on recreational resources and things like that in the county. So I did that last week and it's pretty productive. It was there were a number of different people that were on the call from different towns and stuff like that, tossing out ideas. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'm sure they're going to follow up with me on different things. So
Pickleball courts.
I did mention pickleball
And
courts.
I've spoken with Gene Merlino and I need to get him information on construction companies that can resurface and change the could change the courts from tennis to pickleball, which shouldn't take all that much to
Is
do.
it possible to use the same court for both?
No,
They ran into a problem, by the way.
no.
Yeah.
They ran into a problem. And
What do you mean?
at the meeting Monday night, apparently the school's tennis courts are not regulation, so they have to use the ones over by.
In
yeah.
town.
I was gonna say.
But
that.
nobody uses those.
Well, when they have
The
tournament, when
kids
the
do.
kids do, because we have a tennis team, so that's where they have to
Yeah.
play.
So they can't play on their own courts?
It's not regulation. Yeah, I'm just telling you what was.
Yeah.
And there's a modified, there's a JV and there's a varsity tennis team. We actually have a huge tennis team, believe it or not.
Wow, I had no idea.
It was
Yeah.
brought up that maybe they'll turn the school courts into ball, or somebody else has suggested on the board, I think it was Annie, that somewhere down where the pavilion is, down towards the where they store.
Yeah, the board wasn't very receptive of
Yeah.
that though.
Well, because they make a
I-
lot of noise.
I've
Yeah.
never seen anyone on those town courts, not even kids, like on a team, like, when do they play?
It's April and May.
I do have a comment on I don't mean to sound harsh or anything like that, but that's the school's problem, isn't it?
I was gonna say that, but it's the board's problem.
You know what I mean? If they built courts that aren't the size.
Our
it's-
regulation,
They're not regulation, they figured it out. If that's what they were gonna do, turn.
because those are really nice courts at the school.
And they spread them out for practices too. And when they have the games, like they actually bus kids from the elementary school down to the town court so they can play simultaneously for the games before it
Mhm.
gets dark.
Well, they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that. They can schedule them differently, but pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the nation, and all the other towns, a lot of other towns and municipalities have converted their tennis courts, sorry, my lip keeps into pickleball courts because people are using them, and so much so that they're not enough now. Towns are having to build more for all generations of people, you know? So they would be used, I'm pretty certain. In fact, I saw people there. I mean, I ride by there a lot, and they had a little net and they had duct tape on the court, which is just not acceptable. And I think going forward, tennis is not a growing sport. I think pickleball is definitely a growing sport. And I'm a tennis player, so not to poo-poo tennis at all, but like Dean said, I would agree, it's kind of a school's problem, but to sacrifice those courts to not have pickle and just to keep tennis, I guess I can't agree with that. And that's just me personally, but I play a lot of both of those sports, but pickle is very fast growing. And I just think it would serve our community really, really well if those were pickleball, if they were true pickleball courts and not tennis courts, because it's a real pain to play pickleball on a tennis court. And you could probably for what's there, you could probably, there are 3 tennis courts, you could probably have 4 or 5 pickleball courts. And they would be, and if there's lights on them and stuff like that, they would be used all the time by children, by adults. And I even recommended that we start a program, and I know people myself and several people in town that play a lot of pickle, be an instructor, like give lessons and get kids out there and get adults out there and teach them how to play.
Maybe through the youth commission that's running in Hadley, you could contact them about maybe doing a class during the summer
Sure.
with the kids for the youth commission.
Yeah, I mean, I just think to have some kind of an organized program for our kids and for adults to learn pickle would be great.
Because our youth commission used to do that. They used to run like 1 week of basketball, 1 week of soccer, 1 week of tennis, and they'd have like a 4-week program where coaches would like volunteer their time to do a 1 week program of that sport for the summer.
Yeah, yeah. All of that's doable, all that, I just know so many people that are involved in the sport and can redo the courts. And, I several companies that can do that. So I hope that they lean in that direction. Gene seemed to think they were going to. I never heard about the tennis with the school or anything like that. That's terribly unfortunate.
I told the board Monday night that they found that out. That's why they'll let the school use the tennis courts, because theirs aren't regulation, but that was my first thought. Well, wouldn't that be a school problem?
Yeah.
And usually the tennis wins the Adirondack League every year for our school, believe it or not.
Yes.
Wow.
Tennis, we
How
win
come-
the Adirondack
Geez, I
League.
had no
We did
idea.
very well.
We win almost every year.
Part of the deal with the school needs to be, put the pickleball courts at the school, since the school using the town's tennis courts. Sounds to me.
The problem you're gonna run in with that, those school hours,
Right,
allowing the
school
public
hours.
on school property during school hours.
Yeah.
And
What was
then
it, John? Do you remember what the cost was that the grant,
35,000.
35,000
court.
per court? Yeah, that the grant writer said
For pickleball?
Pickleball.
Yeah.
to
For
build
one
it.
court?
One
for
court.
one
Right.
court.
From scratch, right?
Well, that's from scratch.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'd have to look at it. I haven't
I
given
was
Gene.
KP, not as much. I mean.
Right.
Well, you already have the surface there. You just have to resurface it, reline it, and put the correct nets and stuff like that.
Substantially cheaper. it would have
I
to
would
be.
think.
maybe it's something we can work out with the town of Hadley. They have tennis courts up there also at the Hadley Park that the school does not use.
Hadley was looking into pickleball courts too, and they got scared by the number.
Start from scratch or
Yeah.
change like a tennis court.
Both the resurface. Yeah.
Well, they're,
Really-
hopefully we're gonna get a grant for the zoning, which in 2 weeks we'll find out.
Good.
We hope. If not, she's gonna put that grant along with the playground grant and maybe pickleball courts. Because we're looking like about 125,000 they're looking to get at the end of January.
Oh.
But you have to put together a good grant,
Mhm.
because every town wants a grant.
Yeah.
And I guess there's more money available than ever through the state, so
Good.
we'll see. what happens.
And I know just personally from playing in Jenkinsville and Crandall Park and Boom Road and places like that where they have pickleball courts. They're very busy all the time. And there's a need for more. And I think from some of the people that I know that help run some of these programs, the towns are looking at trying to finding locations to build more pickleball courts for people. It's crazy. It's like a mania, but it's kids. They're teaching it in the schools now. They have taught it in the schools, pickleball. They're like on a basketball court. They'll teach kids how to play. But I know just personally going to Crandall Park and they have like 4 or 6 courts with lights. You go by there and they're always busy unless it's like 98 degrees in the summer and nobody wants to play like at 3 PM, and like sweat, but or sweat like crazy, but in the evening they are used. It's a phenomenal thing that's happening. throughout the country, and actually throughout the world. I hope, I guess my point is, without rambling on like I am, but just for years and years and years driving by those tennis courts, and I've used the tennis courts, but knowing that pickleball is in such demand, that I thought, wouldn't it be great to just convert those so that everybody can use these courts, and all generations, like, kids and young adults, older adults, seniors, they all are playing this sport, and it's crazy. And so it'd be fun to have that in our own community with a program to teach people. And I could certainly do that.
We'll pass that on to Dane, the upcoming board member.
But thank you for letting me
So any,
go on about that.
any other business? Anyone?
Did you have something to say?
Oh,
I just wondered if you could put something like that, it'd be a start from scratch type idea, but off of Reservoir Road. I brought up Reservoir Road before, I think at a board meeting. Can you go to the microphone, please? Yeah, thank you. So I'm Brent, I'm from Lake Luzerne. Just you guys talking about it brought it back up in my mind again. I brought it up in like, I think it was August, whether Reservoir Road was a public useful road, like if the public was allowed to go up there now, just to use that area as trails. I never really got an answer about it, but it seems like you could probably have pickleball courts up there. It'd be a start from scratch. It would cost more than just relining a court that's already there. But if you could get grants and things, there's hundreds of acres up there, some of it zoned as parks, town parks.
Oh.
A couple hundred acres as town parks, some of it's still zoned as, I don't know.
It's not zoned as parks. That is the assessment land use classification of it, which is completely different from zoning. It's just something that the assessor uses in her work, and that was put in place years ago for a particular reason that no longer exists. So I just want to clarify that it's not zoned parks. That's the land assessment use that is assigned to it right now.
Okay, so what she said, but there's like 700 acres, I think, of town land up there. That seems like it could be used for recreational purposes. I guess that's all I was bringing up.
Oh, well, thanks.
And a lot of it's based off, I guess, the ability for the public to use that road. And I still don't know what the answer is on that
yeah,
reservoir
I
road.
think that'd be something the town board would, that's where I would go with.
Part of that land also is to do with the water district, and I forget, Chris, it was a while ago when we researched that. Do you,
Open space and wild forest up there. So as far as zoning goes, it might be an issue.
well, yeah, but I thought that when we looked at it before, I'm trying to remember why it was zoned that way, but I would have to go back and redo my work again. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have so many things.
Okay, it's just an idea for pickleball. That's all I wanted
Yeah.
to say.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
that it? Okay,
Okay.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.